So let's bring in Leslie Shedd now, former senior advisor for the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Great to see you here. So the White House, still the scene of these discussions. We understand the European leaders, Zelensky, Trump, are all still in the Oval Office, one presumes. You know, how do you think it's going so far? And why was it necessary, do you think, for those European leaders to come with Zelensky today?
An incredible show of strength from President Trump. He's been able to get a whole bunch of powerful, important European leaders into the White House all at the same time to sit down with him and talk. I also think this is just one more example of the president prioritizing and putting right in the center the United States' strong relationship with Europe, with Ukraine, and how much he is ensuring that even if they aren't on every call with him or in every meeting with him, that he knows what they want, that he understands their red lines, and he is representing them well.
Just reading, actually, that Trump has interrupted that meeting with European leaders to call President Putin. That's according to the Bild newspaper report. The meeting is to be resumed after the call, according to the German magazine Bild. But, you know, extraordinary. At one point, we began to think maybe President Putin would be brought into that discussion on a group telephone call. But anyway, clearly not. Why is it important that he now brings in Putin at this stage? Surely this is the day to hear what Zelensky has to say and what Europe has to say.
It could be that he heard something from the Europeans or from Zelensky in that meeting that triggered something that, you know, Putin had talked about in their meeting earlier. And maybe he thought, hey, you know what? If I can get a small agreement, something small right now, where I know that both sides are going to agree to this, I want to do that immediately. I'm going to pick up the phone and call him right now. We'll have to see if these reports are true or not. But if so, it could indicate some real movement.
Why does President Trump seem to trust President Putin? Why did he let him speak first at that news conference after the summit on Friday in Alaska?
I don't think that the president trusts Putin at all. In fact, he's actually said that several times. He knows that he has not been honest with him. He knows that he has not been a good negotiator and has not been negotiated in good faith with him. All of that to be said, he understands that we need Putin in order to come to an agreement. Both sides have to be willing to sit down. And the president has tried very hard to make himself a neutral arbiter in order to be able to get both sides to sit down.
We joke about this is all about a Nobel Peace Prize. He talks about the 6 wars he's solved. He raises India, Pakistan, for example. You know, does he really still feel aggrieved that Obama won the Nobel Prize? And how much is that driving what he's doing?
I don't think that drives this at all. The president has made it very, very clear that he cares about peace. He wants the killing to stop. He wants the suffering to stop. He's always been supportive of that. And he has been putting his own political capital on the line every day as he is trying to solve this war. It doesn't have anything to do with the Nobel Peace Prize. That being said, if he gets this trilateral meeting set up, President Trump absolutely deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. He has been bringing peace to warring nations all over the country, and I think he should get it.
I heard H.R. McMaster, former national security advisor to Trump in the first term, last week suggesting that the way to Trump's heart is through emotion. He's an emotional man. So how important is it to raise the fate of these thousands of Ukrainian children who've been smuggled from Ukrainian territory into Russia, you know, and illegally adopted, presumably? Hard to track them now. They seem to be decentralizing their adoption system in Russia to make it impossible to track these children. And clearly it's something that Melania Trump feels very, very clearly as well. You know, is that a way into getting Trump to understand the plight of Ukraine?
Absolutely. President Trump is an incredibly empathetic man. He cares very deeply about people. He wants very much. This is why he cares about peace. He wants to see the suffering stop. He wants to see the killing stop. I noticed during the multilateral meeting that happened with all of the European leaders today that many of them brought this up. I think that that is a good thing to bring up. And I will tell you, too, even if they don't bring that up, I'm willing to bet that those children are in the back of President Trump's mind every single day.
And in terms of how he sees this, you know, the criticism is that he's, you know, he takes his real estate mogul head to it. Land swaps, you know, it's all Ukrainian land, obviously. And actually, he doesn't fundamentally understand the principle that President Putin doesn't believe Ukraine is a sovereign entity in its own right. It is part of Mother Russia effectively, and that Trump doesn't quite understand that nuance.
I think that he definitely understands that, but I think that him understanding that and accepting it has nothing to do with the fact that he wants to try to get to peace. He has said repeatedly over and over again that whatever happens to the occupied territories is going to be up to President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine. I do think it's important to point out at the beginning of this war, the vast majority of Ukrainians were opposed to any kind of a negotiated peace. And now a recent Gallup poll says 69% of them are in favor of some kind of a negotiated peace. So the president knows that this is up to President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine. He wants to be a neutral arbiter, somebody that can come in and help bring the two sides together to see if there's going to be any type of agreement that could end this war.
Yes, I mean, Leslie, there must be war weariness in Ukraine. It's been more than 3 really difficult years for there. But what about in America? They've talked about an Article 5 style security guarantee. That's part of the NATO agreement. An attack on one is an attack on all. Would the American people stomach any of that, or does there need to be a row back from helping countries, thousands of miles away?
I think so. I think that the American people will absolutely be supportive of that. Poll after poll has showed the American people have continued to be very supportive of Ukraine. And I mean, I have to tell you, that is a huge get that the president got. Not only that, according to him, that Putin has said that he is going to, allow some type of Article 5 type security agreements. I mean, that is a big get. Now, you got to keep Putin to that, right? And that's always going to be the hardest part. But the president made it clear he is supportive of that. And if that is something that we can get agreed to, it will be a really important part of whatever peace deal we get to. But keep in mind, it's one part. Any type of negotiated peace that we get to with this will be complex. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. I heard Ambassador Herbst earlier talking with you about the fact that, the devil is in the details. So there is still a long way to go here. But I believe that we have seen more progress towards peace in the last 3.5 days than we've seen in the 3.5 years before, and that gives me hope.
Yes, it feels like we're a long way from details, doesn't it? And certainly in terms of the concerns about that security guarantee, Russia opposes any scenarios that envisage deployment of NATO troops in Ukraine, according to the Russian foreign minister this evening. So that negotiation, as you said, with Putin will no doubt be tricky. Leslie Shedd, really good to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed, former advisor for the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs. So that breaking news then, Donald Trump, Donald Trump has interrupted his meeting